Hey guys, good afternoon. Can anyone confirm, guys? You can see my screen as shown you on PPT.
Hi, Chandy. Hi, we can see.
Yeah. Right. So, guys, let's get started. The last session, guys, we were talked about the basic introduction of the OOPS. So let me take the session from there itself. Okay. And actually, I haven't get a time to expose you this slide and some basic things. So let me go with the step by step. So maybe guys, you can see the first screen. There I have written on the top, guys, you can see the object-oriented programming principles are, there is a shortcut I have given. The shortcut maybe you can remember, co-API. It's a shortcut, guys, to remember the all object-oriented programming principles. The C for class and O for object, it's a just shortcut. And A for abstraction, P for polymorphism, I for inheritance, and E for encapsulation. And let me go with this all, guys, like one line description first of all. And maybe remember yesterday I have given you what is a class and object. So class is an imaginary thing, like I given you flower, whereas object is nothing but, guys, the physical existing thing in the world, right? There we see one basic example also. Guys, for the shortcut only I have written this format, but while we learning, guys, first we have to discuss what is class and object. Then, guys, we have to learn from the right side. Like first encapsulation, then, guys, inheritance, then polymorphism, then abstraction. Acha, what I'll do is here I'll go with what is class object and the remaining four with one line description. You can see. The first of all, you can see encapsulation. I think you got some idea about the encapsulation. Yesterday, I have given you. Encapsulation is nothing but the binding data and methods, binding data and methods in a single block. We call it as encapsulation. Maybe you remember. Just guys, let me take a pointer then so that I can explain in a better way. Yeah. So guys, first of all, we'll talk about encapsulation. Encapsulation will talk about a single class, and inside the class, like how you are preparing the data and methods, how you are preparing data and that is what encapsulation. Now coming to inheritance, yeah, inheritance will talk about, guys, if your application have more than one class, how one class property used by another class. That's what, guys, the topic is what inheritance. Now let's talk about the polymorphism. Polymorphism, guys, will talk about completely about methods, like what is the best way to prepare the methods inside the classes. That we'll discuss about polymorphism. And guys, in polymorphism we'll talk about preparing methods inside single class and preparing methods inside parent and child classes. That we are going to be discussing polymorphism. Okay. And guys, the last one is what abstraction. So sometimes, guys, it's not the good idea to expose your methods, the logics. Okay, sometimes definitely you have to hide your method logics and just you have to expose only method names, right? So simply we can say abstraction is nothing but, guys, hiding implementation and just exposing the service. And the best example I can say this application, guys. Now whatever the application that we are using for communication purpose, the Zoom, that is the best example for the abstraction. The one who developed the Zoom application, I think it's developed from China, I think. Yeah. So the one who developed this application, that guys are providing us just exposing the services. So what are the services? Like screen sharing, audio sharing, video sharing, participant list. Guys, these kind of things, guys, they are giving the services to us. But no one, the developer, guys, will expose the services, like how they implemented. So that's what we'll talk about in the abstraction. Anyhow, guys, I'm going to be covered them all of them one after another. Maybe remember yesterday how given you class, object, and encapsulation. Maybe we can see the continuation. And sometimes you can get a common interview question: what is the difference between object oriented and as well as object based? See, guys, the first difference, if you see, the object oriented programming will support, guys, all OOPS principles, like 6 out of 6, 6 out of 6 co-API. But guys, the object based programming languages cannot support the polymorphism and inheritance. Now, guys, if you see, the object-oriented programming principles are, the supported languages are CPP, Java, Python, .NET, all are under object-oriented, whereas JavaScript and VB.NET, guys, under object-based programming languages. Now, there is one more, the highlight point I want to discuss, what is object-oriented and object-based. Object-oriented programming languages like Java, .NET, Python, they provide only ready-made classes. They provide only ready-made classes. Guys, objects user has to create. Objects user has to create. But object-based programming languages, guys, they provide ready-made classes and as well as objects also. Maybe if you have a knowledge in JavaScript, maybe you remember a piece of code document.write. If you have a knowledge on JavaScript, their document is a ready-made object. You are not creating. But guys, if you have a knowledge on Java, there is a class scanner. You have to create the object for the class. And in Python, guys, there is a class. The class name is, locking. For they given a ready-made classes, the user has to create that object. So, guys, this is about object-oriented programming language versus object-based programming language. Now, let's talk about advantages. Guys, it's just strange for me to give you the advantages of OOPS in the first slide itself. You know the reason. If you buy a new product, let's take it, if you buy a new mobile today, if anyone will come and ask you that, Are, can you tell me the advantage of the mobile? No, definitely you can't. After at least 1 month or 3 months or 6 months, once you use it, then if anyone will ask you, then definitely you can tell it's advantages. Guys, I'm in the first step only now. Okay. So today only just we started object-oriented programming principles now, and we don't know completely all. But guys, I can give you the bullet points. You can see simplicity of the code is achieved by class and object. Today you can see this is practically how real-world problem statements are going to be converted into the class and object. You're going to be learned today. And guys, the confidentiality of the code is achieved by abstraction. I told you confidentiality means you have to expose always the method names, not the method logics. Now, guys, readability will achieved by, guys, polymorphism, nothing but writing method names. Writing method names. That how we achieve. That is polymorphism. Guys, one class can use it by another class. That will talk about reusability. And guys, the last line, I think you can't see. Maybe I can read it. The modularity is achieved by a concept called encapsulation. You'll go with, guys, what is encapsulation, what is modularity in my next the programming topics. Acha, guys, can you see this the next slide now? There I have given you the basic idea to understand what is OOPS. Okay, guys, you can take the 2 examples. Maybe yesterday we'll talk about them already. Maybe you remember. If you take, guys, a car is an object, then its perspection would be, guys, its color, model, price, and brand, all are, guys, under properties. And if you talk about function, guys, ABC, maybe remember, car have the ABC features generally, and we have something like acceleration, slowing down, and gear change. But I can give you ABC: A for acceleration, B for brake, and C for clutch. They are the functionalities for the car. No, maybe remember yesterday I have given you this example: flower. If you take a flower as a class, it has some properties: color, weight, and season, and its functions nothing but behaviors are, guys, like preparing perfumes, and like preparing garlands and decorations for that purpose. That we call the behaviors. Same thing as the example 2 I have taken dog. If you take dog is a class object, guys, and all the dogs has, guys, colors, breed, name, and weight, and etc. And all the dogs have the behaviors like, walking, barking, and playing. They're all talking about the behaviors. I hope this is clear to you all, I think, to understand what is a class and object. Maybe, guys, next slide, if you see, maybe you can get more idea. This is class, guys. Please focus on your eyes here, left side. This is a class for a car, nothing but a blueprint. A blueprint is nothing but definitely the civil engineers, the mechanical engineers. They will give you, guys, the mechanical engineers will give you like how the structure has to be there. Like this is you can see, guys, the top view. This is side view, this is front view, and this is the back view. And they're given all the views, guys. This is we call it as class. A class is nothing but a blueprint. It's not really exist. It's just a blueprint. But right side, if you see, guys, they are the objects. Ford car, Ferrari car, right? Volvo car, BMW car, Toyota car. They are all objects. This is a class, and the right side all are objects. Now, guys, if you see, even it is like any company, if you take attributes, guys, every car has a color, model, price, and brand. And behavior, if you see, I told you ABC and gear chain and so on. They're all behaviors, guys. I hope this slide also will make you more clarity. What is a class and what is object? Now, guys, maybe this slide will more make sense. You guys understand what is class and object. You can see, if you take a human, it's a blueprint. A human can be a Sonu Sood. A human can be a Mother Teresa. And all human beings, guys, have the common attributes like name, age, height, and weight, and all the common behaviors, guys, like eating, sleeping, and walking. Okay, maybe this is will make you more clarity, I think. Now maybe yeah, guys, now it's a time to know the syntaxes. Just it's time to know the syntaxes. Guys, yesterday already I given you, maybe you remember, this is, guys, a syntax to prepare a class. Class space, you have to write a class name. Class space, you have to write the class name. This is syntax. And just move down, guys, you can see this example for the class. Just move down and you can see the example for the car class. You can see class space, the class name as I have taken car. And guys, I told you inside the class, you have to write attributes and behavior, or we call it data and methods. We call it as data and methods. You can see, guys, all car has the brand, mileage, and price, and behaviors are, you can see, acceleration, brake, and clutch. And guys, immediately just keep your eyes on right side on the slide. Now, guys, on the top, you can see this is a syntax of object. Very simple syntax, guys. Left side, you have to write object name. Right side, you have to write the class name. And in parentheses, guys, you have to give the object values. Now, maybe you can see the examples. If you take a Honda as a first object, yeah, guys, you can see the Honda car name is I have taken, guys. You can see the brand name Honda City. And the mileage, guys, you can see mileage, 21.4 liter, 21.4. And price, as you can see, 10 lakhs. Now you can see, guys, same thing like Skoda Actoya, and 13 is what you call it as mileage, and 8 lakhs is the price. So I hope, guys, this window is also clear to you all, like how to prepare a class and how to prepare an object with syntaxes, with syntaxes. Okay, and guys, one more example also I have given. That's what the human example. Class human, like I have taken two properties, name and age of the humans, and the behavior sleeping, eating, walking. And guys, objects, you can see human one equal to the class name of Sachin is the name and 40 is the age. And guys, Teresa is the name and 50 is the age. Right? I hope this is also clear to you all. Guys, maybe you remember in the first slide, I have given you one thing, that class and object benefit in OOPS is simplicity of the code. I told you simplicity means a real world, the problem statements are easily we can convert into the class and object. So guys, here I have taken a real world application, that is what calculator. Maybe you remember yesterday I have shown you this one. Yesterday I have shown you this one. Guys, this is a calculator application and these are the functionalities you can see. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, they're all, guys, functionalities. That is behaviors. And guys, this 100 and plus 50 is there, no, 150 are the data. 150 are the data. And guys, these are all functions. Yeah, if you take, this is your application, and now it will become your class name. Calculator will become the class name. Let's see the second window. Guys, see the previous window, I have given just a blueprint of a real world application. But next, immediately you can see, guys, I converted that complete application into the class concept. You can see your class name is calculator, and you have a two data, num1 and num2, the 150. And guys, these are all methods you can see. I think this slide will give you more clarity how real world applications are converted into the class concept. Guys, can you confirm in the chat? Are you comfortable by seeing this screen? What is OOPS concept and what is class? Confirm, guys, in the chat. Good. Okay. Guys, the next slide you can see, this is your real world application. Now I have given this blueprint to you to how to write the code. Next slide, if you see guys, next slide, whatever the scenario that we have taken, the class data and methods that are converted into the coding part, you can see. Guys, this code we already discussed yesterday. This code we already discussed yesterday. So please have a look. I have a class name is calculator. Okay, and there is a two data. See guys, how to declare data, you have to use a special function called init. And guys, I have written two functions. Anyhow, you have to write the remaining. And guys, these are the methods, and methods actually I have prepared here. The methods I have prepared actually here. And guys, the bottom things you can see, they are all objects. Calc1 is an object one. Maybe remember yesterday I have taken Chanti and Yaku. This is what. This is what. Maybe guys, you are clear with this code, I think. And guys, this is a class diagram code. Class diagram code. And in this program, guys, you can see this is a class block. And this is we call it as constructor block. Maybe you remember init is called as a constructor block. And guys, these are the user-defined method 1. The addition is a user-defined method 1, and the multiplication is a user-defined method 2. Guys, this is where you are creating this object, where you are creating this object and calling the methods. And guys, this is what creating object 2 and calling the two methods. Anyhow, I have given this explanation last session also. But maybe now you got more clarity, I think, by seeing this program. Guys, is that clear so far? Can you confirm in the chat? Quick. Okay, done. Now guys, let me talk more about your class concept. This is the yesterday program, and we written one init block. Guys, I told you the init block, we call it as a constructor block. So guys, let me write a comment, something, it's a constructor block like this. I have written, it's just a constructor. Just it is a constructor. Now let me give you overview, guys. What are the things that we have to prepare inside the class? What are the things that we have to prepare inside the class? Just to wait a moment. Yes. So guys, first thing, what you have to be very good at how to create a class. So you have to write class space class name. You have to write it. Or you can see, guys, this is just a class. And right side, guys, I'm taking one object. One object I am taking. Left side is a class and right side is an object. Guys, there are three functionalities I'll show you. Please focus. There are three functionalities I'll show you. The first one is, this is class and this is object. For object, someone has to initialize the values. Someone has to initialize the value. Someone has to initialize the value. Guys, this is nothing but setting the values for the object. Setting the values for the object. So is the value setting is enough? No. Definitely you have to know, guys, how to get the data from the object. What you set, yes, what you set, you want to know definitely what values you set. Guys, if you want to know what values you set for the objects, okay, then guys, you can use a special function called, the special function name is string. There's a special function called string, guys. See guys, to set the data to the object, we use a special function called init. Okay, and to get the data from the object, guys, we have to use a function called, guys, something, str. Now guys, the set opposite, maybe you remember, set opposite is nothing but get. But guys, there's a one more function also that you have to know. One more function also that you have to know, guys, how to remove the data within an object. How to remove the data within an object. Guys, for that purpose, the special function they given, the function name is del. So guys, actually I want to conclude you guys, there are three special functions are there. The three special function usages that you have to know it. Three special function. One is init, and the second is what str, and third one is what del. These are the special function which are given for every class. That special function. Init used for set the data to the object. Str function used to get the data from the object, and del function, guys, use it to remove the data within an object. And guys, these three functions automatically called, you need not to call. There are special function inside every class. You need not to call, they automatically called. Automatically call. Guys, I'll write them three. So please focus. I'll write them three. Please focus. Now, guys, I'm preparing the next function. The function name is str. Now, I'm preparing the second function. The function name is what? Str. Okay. And guys, I told you str function will return. So there is no parameter. And guys, just make a comment that it is a clearly an string function. It's a string function. Generally, we call it a string function. And guys, always the string function, it has to return the data. It has to return the data. So, okay, guys, you can write return self.num1, self.num1, and guys, you can write self.num2. Both you have to return. Both you have to return. But guys, this num1 and num2 values, you are returning which format? Integer format. You are returning which format? Integer format. But string function always will return the data, guys, in string format only. Now, what you need to do is you have to convert your data into string format like this, and guys, make a concatenation, and this num2 also you have to return in, guys, in a string function like this. You have to return in a string format like this. So simply, guys, I want to conclude. This is constructor used to initialize the data, and guys, this is a string function used to return your num1 and num2 in string format only. Guys, you can see by comma separation I am printing. It is a just concatenation. It is a concatenation. Okay, you can print the values like 10, 20 like this. You will get it. Otherwise, sir, I need more customization. Like you can do decoration like this also. Num1 is equal to, you can do plus concatenation. And guys, you can do num2 is equal to like this. This is just string concatenation, guys. Now this time, guys, let me prepare one more, the last function. That function name is, guys, the del. Generally, del, we call it as destructors. Del. There is a one more function is there. The function name is del. And this is we called as, guys, destructors. And let me write that comment, guys. It's a clearly what destructors. What the destructor will do, guys, just it remove the memory which is allocated for the objects. It just remove the memory which is allocated for the object. Guys, I'm using the del keyword. Maybe you already have a knowledge on the del keyword. Just it will remove of the memory of both num1 and num2. Just it will remove the memory for num1 and num2. So guys, this is constructor and the string function and the destructor function. And guys, I told you need not to call them all. They implicitly called. Now I'll tell you, guys, at what time they will call. Guys, for just clarity purpose, just for the clarity purpose, this is object one execution, this is object to execution. No, I written some dashes, so just for clarity purpose, guys, see, we know that the execution starts from the 19th line. So here we are creating the object. So guys, at the time of object creation, the Python interpreter will call implicitly, guys, the init function. It will call the init function. Implicitly calls the init function when you create an object. Guys, after this one, when you print that object, remember one thing, when you print that object, again, guys, implicitly it will call a function called str, guys. And after object completion of the work, after completion of the object work, guys, then implicitly call, guys, it will call the delete function. Who will call them? Python interpreter will call. You need not to call, guys, Python interpreter will call. Init function, str function, and del function. Init function will call automatically at the time of object creation. String function will call automatically at the time of when you print that object. And guys, del function will call automatically once the object work gets completed. And guys, the same behavior will be there for here also. Same behavior is there for here also. See here, first init function gets called, and then, guys, the string function gets called, and guys, here the business method is called. After at the end, guys, implicitly call the delete function also. Now, guys, let's run this code and see this execution once. Guys, you can see, first of all, constructor will call, Then string function gets called, and guys, it's returning, num1 and num2 values. I think why you are getting, guys, the 30 and minus 10, I'm not sure. Why this behavior is happening like this? Just let me double check. Guys, addition, you are doing num1 and num2. Subtraction, you are doing num1 and num2. Okay, yeah, as expected, guys. As expected, sorry. This is addition, guys, 10 plus 20. And guys, this is subtraction like minus 10. That is expected. And guys, destructors you can see at the end, the destructors you can see at the end, because after completion of the object word, the both will be executed automatically. Now guys, for second object also you can see constructor gets called, string function gets called, like it printing the num1 and num2. Then guys, it's addition of 100 and 200, and guys, this is a subtraction. And I told you guys, destructor will be called automatically after completion of the object work. Generally, there is a scenario you can observe. If you are using a pen, guys, when you throw the pen outside, definitely after completion of the ink. That's what, guys, after completion of the object word, the delete function calls automatically. I hope, guys, everyone clear the special function inside every class, the init and string and the del. Is that clear? Guys, can you confirm in the chat? Is that clear? Okay, good, good, good. Keep going. Guys, this is about special function inside the class. Special function inside the class. Now it's a time to know, guys. Now it's a time to know. There are, let me write the index, guys. Maybe it will help you. Or else, guys, in the slide also have them. I'll show you them. You can see. Guys, you can see there are methods inside the class, special methods, init, string, del. And guys, I have given the syntaxes how to prepare them basically. And on the bottom, I have given you guys at what time they call automatically. At what time they call automatically. Okay. And guys, there's a piece of code also I have written. Same program, guys, which I've shown you now. Same program I have shown you. And guys, this is the expected output. That is also we discuss. This is also, guys, this is about the self keyword. Actually, I told you now that this keyword represent current class object members. Guys, if you have a knowledge on Java or .NET, maybe you can consider this self is nothing but this keyword, this keyword as it is. Okay. Even if you don't have a knowledge, no matter, guys, just you can imagine that self is nothing but it will talk about the current object data, current object methods, current object data, current object methods. So guys, you can see by using the self keyword, we can access the attributes and methods of a class in Python. It binds the attributes with the given arguments. And guys, this keyword must be the first argument of the 3 special functions. You can see, guys, in the previous program also you can see, init has a first argument as self, del has a self argument as self, and str also has a must and should have the first argument as self. Okay, I hope, guys, this is also clear to you all. What do you call it as your self keyword. Now, guys, let me move to one more topic called something, variable types inside the class. Means variable types is nothing but, guys, see, if it is a class, how many types of variables we can prepare? How many variable types we prepare? So guys, I'll go with this one. Now we can see variable types. Then after that, guys, I'll go with a topic called something, method types. Variable types, method types. So user defined variables, how many ways we can prepare, and method types we can prepare. Guys, right side I have given the clear cut idea, the special function inside the class, that is what is init, what is string, and what is a del. Now it's time to understand how many types of variables we can prepare, how many types of methods we can prepare. Guys, I'll show you them with a directly one example. You can see directly I'll go with the one example. You can see, let me take a Python file. Let's take its application name is 2. Guys, maybe you remember yesterday I have taken the class name is student. You're all objects from student class. Is that true? Guys, can I say like this? Your all objects belongs to student class. Is that true? Yes. Now guys, I'm taking 4 properties here. You can see on the top. One is name of the students. Okay. Rule numbers of the student. Okay. And guys, let me take trainer name of the student. Trainer name of the student. Trainer name. And guys, the course name. What is the course name that you are learning now? Huh? And guys, your institute name. I mean, in which organization that you are learning this Python? Institute name. Guys, there are totally 5 attributes I have taken. Now, guys, this is a question for all. This is question for all. Name, rule number, and comma. Let me take one more thing. Phone. First 3. Are there 3 values are fixed to object, fixed to single object, or fixed to all objects? The values for name, rule number, and phone number is fixed to one object or fixed to all objects. I mean, the common to all objects or the specific to specific object. Specific to specific object or common to all objects. These values. I need the answer in the chat. Quick. This is not the very tough thing, guys. Yes, exactly. Fix it to all object. Who said, boss? Rajesh. Your name, rule number, phone number, fix it to your object. Got it? Specific to specific object. Right? Now coming to it, guys, what about the trainer name, course name, and institute name? Who's your trainer name? And what is your current course? And what is your institute name? This is common for all objects or not? Common for all objects or not? Yes, yes, guys, this is the clarity you need to get it. So guys, if the variable values are fixed to object, okay, fixed to object, then that variables are, we call it as, guys, instance variables. Instance variables are also called as, guys, object variables. Called as object variables are also, guys, instance variables. Now guys, the second scenario, if you observe, the trainer name and, guys, the course name are common for all objects. No, guys, that we call it as, guys, the static variables. We call it as something, static variables. And also, guys, they are called as class variables. I think now you understand how to differentiate which are instance variable, which are static variables. Is that clear? Is that clear? Guys, ping me quick. Yes, guys, if they are class variables, observe, guys, if they are class variables, declare inside the class directly. Declare directly inside the class, guys. Like, you can directly copy them and you can directly you can write it. You can write, guys, trainer name is equal to, write your trainer name, Chanti. And for what is the course that you are attending now? This is, guys, Python, right? And guys, the institute name is there, no? Guys, you can write institute name is what? Antwalk. You can write Antwalk. This is what, guys, how to declare the static variables. Nothing but inside the class directly you can declare it. Sir, what about the instance variable? Where should I declare? Guys, instance variables are nothing but object variables. No, the object variables, guys, always has to be declared inside the init function. Inside the init function. That's what they declared with the self keyword. They declared with the self keyword. So how many parameters are there? 3, no? So you can take 3 parameters, guys. Guys, yesterday I make you just confused. I'm not making confused. You can take the 3 variable names, guys, anything. So I have taken something, ABC. And guys, this time you have to write self.name is self.name, comma, self.rule number, comma, self.phone number is equal to, guys, you can write A, comma, B, comma, C. Nothing but, guys, they are local variables to the constructor. But guys, if you use a self keyword, they are object variables. If you use a self keyword, they are, guys, object variables. Yesterday, I make you some more confused by writing same name here and here. Maybe now you got the clarity. You can write any name. That's what I have written, something ABC. I hope, guys, this is also clear to you all. This is also clear to you all. And guys, this time, I am preparing one string function. Okay, which will return all the details, guys, which will return all the details of about the class. So guys, let me use a return keyword. Let me use a return keyword. And guys, first I'm returning the name, and name, it's all by default, it's a string. So you need not to convert it into the string format. But guys, rule number is not a string. Rule number is not a string. So guys, I'm converting that into the string format. Okay. Now guys, I'm concatenating the phone number, and definitely the phone number is not also in a, what do you call it, as your string. So definitely you have to convert into the string. Guys, I told you, string function always returns guys, what do you call it, as your the data in string format. And now guys, let me access the trainer name and course name also. Remember one thing, guys, if they are object variables, they are accessed by the self keyword. But if they are static variable, they are the class variable, then they are always accessed by the class keyword only, class name only, guys. So you have to write something, student dot trainer name, and that is string now. So you need not to convert. Again, guys, you can write student dot course name, and guys, concatenate by comma. Guys, you can write again now, you can write student dot, guys, the institute name that you can write it. So guys, this is how to write the init and how to write the string function. Guys, I'm not writing any business methods or a delete destructors. Just I have written init and string. And we know, guys, the init function will called at the time of object creation. Guys, so observe one thing. For a class, I have taken totally 6 variables. But among the 6 variables, the 3 are already initialized. Now only 3 you have to initialize by calling the init. And as I just now told you, init function gets called at the time of object creation. Now guys, I am creating the object one. The object name is student, and guys, I'm passing student. Now you have to pass, guys, the first of all name of the student. Okay, then guys, the rule number, I am taking the rule number is 1. Guys, next take the phone number. I am taking the phone number, 98490 and some 98491. Okay, then guys, you can call guys, you can call the string function. I told you guys, string function calls at the time of object printing. Now guys, when you're creating the object, init function gets called, and when you print that object, the string function gets called. Now it's run and check this output, guys. Guys, can you check it? This is what the string function is returning. Now guys, create one more object. Create one more object. Okay, one more object. Let's take, this name is something, Arun. Let's change his rule number to something, 2, and let's change his phone number to something, 2, and make it as, guys, this is the rule number 2. And let's create quickly one more object, guys. Make it as its name is Varun, and rule number is 3. And guys, this is 3, and print the 3, guys. And just for decoration, guys, for just clarity purpose, I'm using some dash symbols. Copy it, and guys, you can paste it here. Now guys, let's run. You can see now, guys, even if you create 100 objects, for 100 objects, trainer name, course name, institute name never change, because they're fixed for all objects. I'm coming to a rule number, name, and a phone number. They can be changed for object to object. So guys, this is what I want to conclude with the types of variables. There can be 2 types, instance variables and static variables. Guys, can you confirm, is that clear? Is that clear? Good. No. See, yeah, the valid question. Someone is asking, can't we change the class variables once if it is created? No. You can change it. If you change it, the common value is given. See, if you don't want to change the value, then you have to go with the concept called constants. Okay, but this is a static value, means if you change it, that changed value is applicable for all. See, in the program, the local variables are nothing but, in the above program, guys, ABC are the local variables. ABC are the local variables. and these are instance variables. Sorry, they are static variables. They are instance variables. Guys, these are the local variables. Now, maybe you remember there's a concept global variables are there, no? Nothing but guys, if you write anything outside the blocks, if you write anything inside the blocks, guys, this is we called as global variables. Anyhow, it's a right time to like someone will raising a question, global variable. Guys, this is a global variable. And these are local variables. This is static variables. And guys, these are the instance variables. Is that clear? Is that clear? Thing the Rajesh is asking. I hope this is clear. Okay then. Guys, let's move to guys another concept called in the diagram. If you see the method types. So far we discussed that how many variable types we can prepare. Now it's time to know method types, guys. So guys, methods also can be two types: instance methods and static methods. Instance method and static method. So what I'll do is I'll go quickly with one more program. Okay, let's take this is application, guys, app 3, which will talk about, guys, the method types. You can see, guys, earlier what you did is you prepare one application. Let me remove them all. I think this is earlier the yesterday program only. Guys, you prepared one calculator, one class with one constructor, and two methods. And on the bottom, guys, you are creating the object. On the bottom, you are creating the object and you are calling the business methods. So guys, observe these two business methods performing some business logic like addition and subtraction. But to perform the business logic, guys, definitely the data is required. The data is required for the num1 and num2. Now, who's supplying these values for this num1 and num2? Constructor will supply. So we can say that if the data is supplied by the constructor for the business methods, if the data is supplied for the business method by the constructor, then that methods, guys, we call it as instance methods. So instance methods, we can say, guys, object dependent methods. You know why they are called as object dependent, guys? You know why they are called as object dependent? If you create object only, values are initialized to init function. And if the values are initialized to init function, then the instance variables gets initialized. And if the variables values is initialized only, you can do the business logic. That's the reason, guys, they are called as instance methods or object dependent. But I want to create the methods which are not depend on the object. Guys, then you have to rewrite this application. Guys, by preparing a static methods. Okay, now guys, on the bottom I am creating one more class. The class name is calculator2. This time, guys, you need not to write any constructors. Now this time, guys, we can converting them as both are static methods. You can see, guys, please focus how I'm creating the static methods. How I'm creating the static methods. Okay, guys, this is a static method 1, static method 2. Okay, you need not to prepare any constructors. So guys, always the static method must and should start with a decorator called @static method. And there is no need of the self argument. And directly, guys, this method have their own arguments like this. The methods which have their own arguments like this, you can see num1 plus num2. And the same thing, guys, here also you have to do something, static method. And there, guys, you have to remove the self keyword, make it as this is num1 and a comma num2. And on the bottom, guys, you can call it as this is a num1 and plus num2. So this is what you have to do it. Now they are converted as a static methods. So in the top of the program, if you see, they are instance method. They depend on the object creation. If the object created only, the constructor will get the values. Otherwise, the values are not initialized. Now on the bottom, guys, if you see, I have removed the constructor. Now they are object independent methods. It means without object we can access. Now the question is, without object, how do we access? Guys, without object means static methods all were accessed by the class name. You can write class name, and guys, you can call the method names. Now the same thing as you can see, calculator do dot subtraction, and let me guys pass something, 500 comma, let's take some 300 and pass. So guys, this is how to access the method, static methods. Am I creating an object? Am I created the object to call the methods? Can you confirm? Am I created an object in the second class? No, that's what they are object independent methods. Now guys, let's run and check this output, guys, of that two program also. Guys, on the top you can see the constructor get called and we are doing the business method. But on the bottom, guys, the 300 and 800 will be the output for this both. I think the logic I haven't changed. Here you have to change the logic. So I hope, guys, this is also clear to you all. The method types, that is, static methods, and as well as, guys, instance method. Can you confirm, guys? Is that clear? The variable types and the method types? Right, perfect. So now let me go with, guys, one more concept at the class itself. Maybe if you are from Java or a .NET background, guys, maybe you remember this concept, something, access modifiers. Access modifiers. Just wait a moment. Maybe remember these terms like, public, private, and guys, protected. Yeah, I'll discuss them, guys. What are they and why we use them, why we use and how to use them. I'll explain you now. Let's take a scenario. In your home, you will not keep gold in the hall, right? And you will not keep a newspaper in a birwa, right? So based on that item, okay, and you can make in a particular places. I mean, you have to place in a particular places. Is that true? Is that true? Guys, is that true? Yes, exactly. Exactly. This is what actually the content where the public private protected came into the picture. Just observe a scenario. If your application, guys, observe, if your application is completed by the single class, your application completed by the single class, like a class space, guys, let me take class 1. Observe the first case, guys, if your application is completed by only the single class. See, if it is a single class, then definitely, guys, you have to go with the private access modifier. You have to go with the private access modifier. I'll tell you guys how to use them. And if you make anything as private, guys, that is not visible to any outside the class. If you make anything is private inside the class, guys, that is not visible to any outside the classes. Guys, this is a scenario 1. This is scenario 1. Let's go to the scenario 2. If your application, guys, your application have more than one classes, like you can see, let's take class, let's take a class 1. Let's take class, there's a class 2. There's a one more class. Let me take class name is like something, class 3. Suppose observe that your application is going to be completed by taking the 3 classes. See, if the 3 classes mean, then definitely there is a data sharing or method sharing is possible. Okay, definitely there has to be communicate each other. If your application is going to be completed by the 3 classes, just wait a moment. So this is a class 1, and guys, this is a class 2. And this is a class 3, and this is your complete application. Now, in that case, guys, either you can go with the public or you can go with the protected. Either you can go with the public or you can go with the protected. Now, guys, I'll go with, guys, when we have to take public, when we have to take with the protected. Suppose observe inside the class 1, if you declare anything as public, Okay, let's take guys public members are, let me take guys ABC. ABC is nothing but it can be anything. A comma B comma C, nothing but I'm taking there can be a methods or can be a data. So guys, observe, I declare the public members are ABC. And let me take one more member, guys, the protected members. Protected members, let me take as, X, Y, Z. X, Y, Z. Suppose observe that if you declare inside the class, guys, ABC are the public members, now ABC is accessed by class 2, and as well as class 3 also can access. Class 3 also can access. Sir, what about the protected? Guys, protected means if the two classes has parent and child relationship only. If the two classes has parent and child relationship only. Now in that scenario, I am taking class 1 is a parent, and guys, I am making the class 2 as a child. So in that scenario only, guys, the protected members can be accessed. Now guys, in class 2, we can access the XYZ variables, XYZ values. But in class 3, guys, we can't access it because class 1, class 2 is the child, not the class 3. I'll tell you guys how to make parent and child later. But this is, guys, the overview of public, private, and protected. I'm repeating you again. Private access modifiers will have a scope within a class, and public members, guys, can have the scope to the current class, it's a child classes, and other classes in the application also. But whereas protected members, guys, have a scope to by its only child, not any other classes. Is it clear? Guys, is that clear, the overview of public, private, protected? I'll show you guys how to implement them in the programming. Are you clear conceptual wise? Confirm in the chat quick. Done. Guys, we don't have the keywords like public, private, protected like other languages have like Java and .NET. But instead we know there's a powerful operator we use, that is what underscore. That is what underscore. I'll show you them, guys, how to use them. How to use them. Let me take one separate application to demonstrate the public private members. Let's take, guys, this is app 4. Now guys, I'm taking class, the class name is, guys, I'm taking something, class A. Don't get confused, I have taken a class, the class name is class A. Guys, I'm taking a variable like A is equal to 100, okay, B is equal to 200, and C is equal to, guys, 300, right? And after that, guys, after that, I am preparing some methods. You can see the first method name as I have taken M1, initially it is empty. And guys, let me prepare one more method, okay, and this also I'm making it's empty. Let me, yeah, you can make them static or non-static. Okay, that's not an issue, guys. If they are, whether they are static or instant, that is not the matter here. Okay, so let me take, guys, one more method. The method name is M3. Guys, so they are initially I'm making as all methods are empty. All methods are empty. Now, guys, whatever the data I prepared, whatever the methods I prepared, all are public. All are public. Sir, how do you know public? If there is no underscore before the variables, if there is no underscore before the variables and before the methods, they are called as, guys, public only. So guys, this is a public variable, and guys, this is a public method only. Public method only, all are. But before the B, guys, I'm using one underscore. Okay, then guys, what it will become, guys, it will become a protected. It will become a protected variable. It will become a protected variable. Now, guys, same thing I'm doing before M2. Before M2 method, guys, I'm making one underscore. Then, guys, it will become a protected method now. It will become a protected method now. And if any before the variable, guys, if you use double underscore, okay, then, guys, it will become a private variable. Private variable. And here also, guys, If I make double underscore, guys, then it is become a protected, a private method. It will become a private method. This is what, guys, how to declare public protected private variables and as well as the methods. Is that clear? The declaration part? Confirm in the chat. Guys, confirm in the chat. Right. Okay. Right. This is what, how to use them, how to declare them, the public, private, and the protected. Guys, let's come back to the paint, and you can see, guys, the overview, what we discuss under the encapsulation. Guys, this is a summary about encapsulation. What you learn in encapsulation, what you learn in encapsulation. Guys, in encapsulation, completely, guys, you learn, the topics, how to prepare a class, the first topic that you learn, and how to access the class members through object, and inside the class, what are the special methods, like one is init and one is str and another one is what, deletion. Okay. And guys, inside the class, how to create the variables, like how many types of variables, like instance variables and static variables. And guys, how to declare the method, instance methods and static methods, and what are the access modifiers and how to declare them. This is, guys, completely about the topic called encapsulation. And for all the remaining OOPS concepts, guys, let me go with the slide once. For all the rest of the topics, guys. Yeah, for all the rest of the topics, like inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction, the base concept is what? Encapsulation only. And guys, this many topics we discuss under the encapsulation. Now, guys, let me go with the second chapter now. Let me go with the second chapter now. This is the first application we talked about, right? So let me copy this first application. Let's copy to the something, app 5. Guys, this is calculator class. Now, this time, guys, let me make them into all our, without writing the constructor, let me make them. I'm removing the init and I'm removing even this one also. Just I'm making this as num1 comma num2. Just, guys, give me a minute. I'll go with the next topic summary now. These are instance methods only I'm preparing. I'll tell you guys how to give the values for them. Directly I'm printing the subtraction, right? And on the bottom, guys, I'm creating the object for that class. Now, guys, you need not to give any parameters because I haven't written any init block. If you not give the init block, guys, I'll tell you how to access that values also. So, guys, if you see on the code on the top, I prepared a class. The class name is calculator. And you may write a lot of methods like, like a division, multiplication and all. But, time being, you can add later. But let me go with the two methods only, guys. One is addition and the second is subtraction. Now, guys, let me call this methods. This is addition. So I'm passing 100 and let's take 50. And let's take, guys, 120 and let's take something, 30. Guys, this is a class and I was prepared two instance methods. And to access the instance method, guys, I created one object directly can't access. Okay, now you are calling the method. So as expected, guys, you will get that output. The output is, guys, you can see 150 and actually here also you'll get 150. Oh, I think I haven't changed the logic. I have to change the logic. Yeah, now you can see, guys, expected you are getting addition is 150 and the subtraction is 90. I think this application will give you more, I mean, I think you got the clarity of what is this application is doing. Now guys, just observe the real-time scenarios. Now you prepared a one class. Now you prepared a one class. The class name is, calculator. The class name is, calculator. Let's just wait a moment. Yeah, the class name is calculator. But guys, I want to create this calculator. Let's take having the 4 functionalities, guys. One is addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Like that, there are 4 functionalities. We'll have it. Now, as per the client requirement, I want to add the 2 more functionalities for this one. I mean, there are 3 more functionalities I want to add it. Like, I want to add a new functionality. The functionality is, guys, EMI calculator. I want to create an EMI calculator. EMI calculator. So in EMI calculator, there is a one function I'm preparing. There's a one function I'm preparing. The function name is, guys, EMI calculator. There's a function I'm creating. The function name is EMI calculator. Guys, inside it, I'm writing the logic. I'm writing the logic for EMI calculation. So it's a kind of calculator only. It's a kind of calculator only. Now, guys, this is also a calculator, and on the bottom you can see EMI calculator is also one calculator. But my requirement is, guys, with EMI calculator object, suppose if you create an object like this, obj is equal to, if you create an object, guys, something, EMI calculator. Now tell me, guys, how many methods you can access with this object? How many methods you can access? Can you confirm in the chart? Calculator is a separate class. Now I created a one more class, EMI calculator, with one method. The method name is EMI calculator. Tell me, guys, how many methods you can access it? How many methods you can access it? Only one method. Yes, perfect. The only one method. The method name is, guys, EMI calculator only. EMI calculator only. So you can call obj.EMI calculator. Guys, just keep this code here. Let's move to a real-time use case. Initial days of ATM machines, we'll use it for only one purpose, for only withdraw purpose. Do you know it? Guys, do you know it? Initial ATM machines will do only one work. That is what? Only withdrawal operation. But, later on days, they added some functionalities, change pin. Then after that, like a deposit, like that, they added the new functionalities. So in real time, how the new functionalities they need to add? See, observe, just take a scenario in 2005 year, they delivered one ATM machine with only one feature, that is what? Withdrawing the money. But in 2006, they added a new feature. The added a feature is nothing but, guys, the pin change. And 2006, guys, if you see the ATM machine, there can be 2 functional has to be worked. One is withdraw and second is what? ATM pin change. In the 2007 year, guys, observe they added one more feature called like, deposit. It means now in 2007, the ATM machine has to be worked with the existing features and as well as a new feature. Is that true? Is that true? That's how it is possible, guys. That is possible by using a concept called inheritance, by using a topic called, guys, inheritance. Now, guys, I'm telling you how to write the inheritance. Inheritance is nothing but, guys, acquiring the properties from existing classes. Acquiring the properties from existing classes. Now, guys, this time I'm showing you how to write the inheritance code. So just what you need to do is, just you have to write this code, guys. Then automatically, what will happen? If you write this code, guys, keep an eye on here. If you write EMI calculator and in parentheses, guys, if you write calculator, what will happen? This EMI calculator will become the child class and this calculator class will become the parent class. Guys, in parent class, how many methods are there? 2 methods, no, in this diagram. Now the 2 methods and the local method to the EMI calculator, that is EMI calculator, no, like totally 3 methods you can access it by the object now, guys. Now, this is, object to dot. You can call addition also, you can call. You can also addition, you can call. Guys, also you can call, guys, subtraction also, you can call it. This is actually, I want to conclude you what is inheritance. I hope, guys, you are very clear with what is inheritance scenario. This is a parent class. This is a parent class, and now it will become the child one class. Is that clear, guys? Do you have any queries? This is inheritance. Is that clear? And when we go with the situation called inheritance, yes. Now, guys, whatever the object that you created for the child class, the EMI that can access parent methods and as well as child methods. Parent methods and as well as child method. Now, guys, right side I am writing one more code. So please you can focus. Please you can focus. I'm writing a one more class. The class name is, guys, what do you call it as tax calculator. Guys, once if you enter into the IT field, definitely there's some tax you have to pay. So there's some tax that you have to pay. So that code also I'll show you guys how to do it today. Okay, so there's a guys one more class I created. The class name is tax calculator. Now I'm making this is a class is child to the calculator. Now, guys, there I'm writing a one method. The method name is was def tax calculator. Tax calculator. And guys, here I was writing the logic for. I'm writing the logic for tax calculation. Guys, tax calculation, how it will be done, like above 5 lakhs, definitely you have to pay some tax more, and you have to take form 16 and all, and how the tax will be calculated for every month, for every year. Now, guys, this time if you observe, if you create an object for tax calculator, now tell me, guys, how many methods you can access? How many methods you can access? Now, if you create an object, for tax calculator, how many methods you can access? Yes, exactly 3. Exactly 3. That is nothing but, guys, you can call object dot. You can call, guys, object dot tax calculator. You can call it. One second, guys. Tax calculator, you can call it. And other than this one, guys, you can call obj dot addition. You can call, and you can call, guys, obj dot subtraction also you can call it. Subtraction also we can call it. I hope, guys, this is clear to you all. What mean by inheritance and what exactly the inheritance is going to be happening. Okay, observe, guys, one second. Guys, one more scenario I'll show you. One more scenario I'll tell you. You have to tell me that answer now. Observe, if I make tax calculator is a child to the EMI calculator. If I make tax calculator is child to the EMI calculator. Now tell me, guys, tax calculator object can access how many methods? Boss, if you are understanding the concept, then definitely how to tell that answer. How many methods you can access? Exactly 4 methods you can access. Yes, tax calculator you can access the current method tax calculator and its parent method EMI calculator, and guys, its parents are there, no, like addition and subtraction. That methods also, guys, you can access it. So I hope this is clear to you all. This is clear to you all, I think. Now let me introduce you guys the types of inheritance. Actually, the first example which I've shown you, the first example which I've shown you, calculator with EMI calculator, guys. This is the first scenario. We call it as, guys, single level inheritance. Single level inheritance. The first scenario that I covered you with calculator with EMI calculator. Now, guys, there's a third scenario just now shown, that is what calculator child is EMI calculator. EMI calculator is what tax calculator, That is, we call it as guys multi-level inheritance. Multi-level inheritance. Suppose if you write child to any EMI calculator, then it is called as guys multi-level inheritance. Now this inheritance, if you see guys, one parent with the two childs, one parent with the two childs. This is, we call it as guys the third type, that is what hierarchical inheritance. Hierarchical inheritance. So there can be totally three types of inheritance that I have shown you so far: single level, multi-level, and as well as hierarchical. I'll repeating you again. Single level means one parent to one child. Multi-level means, yeah, calculator child is EMI calculator, EMI calculator child is tax calculator. Now hierarchical means guys one parent with two child. Now this scenario, EMI calculator and tax calculators are both are the child for the common parent. The common parent name is what? Calculator. Now guys, let me show you one more type of inheritance. That is what, maybe that's a interview purpose, very important. That is what multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance. I'll show you with that is coding part now. Guys, before showing you the coding part, whatever the diagram that we have seen, I'll show in this is in the implementation part now. This whatever the diagram that you are seeing, as this I'll show you in the coding part. You can see already I prepared the classes for guys. EMI calculator. EMI calculator. So guys, this is the EMI calculator, and it will calculate the monthly EMI. It will calculate in the monthly EMI. There is a one more class I created, that is for interest calculator, guys. Interest rate calculator. It will calculate the interest for the money that you taken from someone. And one more calculator code also I'm sharing you guys. That is what tax calculator. It will calculate the tax based on your monthly income. Based on your monthly income. Okay, so guys, observe what I have written on the in this code. I'll show you them all. Please focus. First class name is calculator, which will have only two functions: addition and subtraction. Now, you know, guys, for EMI calculator, I'm making it's guys, it's a child is what calculator, guys. Now, in EMI calculator will be the child to the calculator. It means through EMI calculator object, we can access the addition, subtraction, as well as EMI calculator also. Now, guys, there's a one more calculator I have taken, interest calculator. So, guys, in interest calculator, I'm making it a child to guys EMI calculator. Nothing but multi-level inheritance. Calculator child is EMI calculator. EMI calculator is interest calculator. Guys, are you following? Are you getting confused? Are you following? Are you getting confused? Are you following? Yes, good. Now, guys, for tax calculator, you know, I'm making it's a child to guys interest calculator now. Okay, there's a one more class I have taken, tax calculator. Now, guys, if you create object for tax calculator, okay, you can access the current method. You can access the current method tax calculator, and guys, you can give the source of income. You know, observe that guys, per year you are getting the salary. You know, 7,50,000. 7,50,000. According to that one, the interest will be guys calculated and will returns. I have written the logic in such a way. You can check the logics later. Guys, now this object, guys, you can call the tax calculator also. You can the EMI calculator also you can call it. And guys, EMI calculator will have the three arguments. PRT, nothing but principal amount. Let's take 5 lakhs is the principal amount. And R for rate of interest, let's take 12, nothing but 1 rupee per month. I mean 1 rupee interest. 12% means 1 rupee interest. And tenure, guys, I'm taking, you know, 24 months. That is nothing but 2 years. Now let me calculate, guys, the interest also. Simple interest. So guys, for the simple interest, again, the same PTR you have to pass. Principal amount, let me take it as 5 lakh. And let me take as tenure is, let's, you know, 2 years. And let me take rate of interest. Let me take it as what? 12%. 1 rupee interest. Now, guys, just run. And, you know, other than this one, guys, you know, you can call one more method also. That is what you can call addition. You can call addition. And also, guys, you can call subtraction also. You can call it. So let me pass 100. and let's take something, 20. This is, guys, we call it as multi-level inheritance. You can see tax calculator parent is interest calculator parent is EMI calculator. Let's run. Guys, you can check this all outputs. So guys, you can see for 7,50,000 amount, 37,500 is tax, guys, per year. And guys, for this one, guys, the EMI is 5,301 rupees. For guys, for the simple interest for this amount is, guys, 1,20,000 for the 2 years. And guys, this is addition, this is subtraction. I hope this code is clear to you all. Yes. Yeah. Now, guys, let me take the very important scenario. That is what? Multiple inheritance. I'll tell you what is multiple inheritance first. Let's take this is app 6. I'm talking about multiple inheritance. I have a class. The class name is something, class A with a method, guys. Show message, and I'm printing hello from class A. Okay, guys, one more class I'm preparing. The class name is class B, and observe that this is also have a show message function. And guys, let me change this method names to something, show message 1 and a show message 2. And guys, here I'm changing this is to class B. Guys, now let me talk about multiple inheritance. If a class has more than one parent, if the class has more than one parent, okay, then that, guys, we call it as multiple inheritance only. Now, guys, I'm preparing the class C with empty, there is no members, but I'm making it's a 2 parents, guys. One is a class B, I'm making it's a parent, and a class A also I'm making the parent. Now observe, guys, this class C has a 2 parents. Now, guys, if I create an object, if I create an object for the child class, now tell me how many methods I can call. Class C has a 2 parents. Now tell me, guys, how many methods I can able to access. Yes, exactly. You can access ob.showMessage1 and ob.showMessage2. Both methods you can access it. So let's run, and guys, check this output. As expected, you can see hello from class A and hi from class B. Just observe this scenario. If the both methods have the same names, then definitely, guys, you can access only the one method. Then definitely, guys, you can access only the one method, because the only one method is there. Actually, this concept will not supported in Java and as well as .NET also, because of an issue called ambiguity. Ambiguity means now this object has to be get confused, like which parent class method has to be executed, because there are 2 parents out there. That is the ambiguity issue in other programming language, but Python does not have the ambiguity. You know what Python will do? It will take this order to call the methods. See, guys, who is the first parent? Class A, no? So directly will go to the class A and will call the method, guys. You can see, guys, hello from class A. But observe if the order will be like this: class B, comma, class A. Then, guys, it will go to the B class, the show message method, and it will call. Guys, this is the very important scenario that you have to remember, that how Python will support multiple inheritance and how this ambiguity issue will be resolved. Is it clear? Right, guys, this is about something, inheritance. This is something, about inheritance. Now, guys, let's talk about a polymorphism. Let's talk about something about polymorphism. Acha, before polymorphism, I'll show you one program. The class name is I have taken total. Initially it is empty. Maybe you remember, guys, yesterday I have taken few scenarios. Total of two items, comma, 3 items, comma, 4 items, like which are made in the Zomato. In Zomato application, the different customer will making the different like food items, and our class has to be calculated the total of each item and has to be written. Guys, polymorphism means, poly means many, morphing means forms. Actually, your complete polymorphism will talk about only the two words method overloading and method overloading. Now you have to tell that is Python support method overloading or not, method overriding or not. That will talk about the polymorphism. Polymorphism means preparing a single method, preparing the multiple methods, preparing multiple methods with different behaviors, with different behavior with the same name only. The rule is, guys, you have to prepare the same method name. Let me show you guys first of all what is method overloading. Let me show you guys what is method overloading. Now, guys, I prepared a class. The class name is total. Actually, as per the problem statement, you have to prepare a first method. The method name is def total of two items. Guys, you have to write the method name like this only. And guys, you have to take the two variables like this. And guys, you can do the total like this. And I'm talking about without method overloading. So please focus. Now, guys, the next, definitely you have to prepare a method. The method name is total of 3 items. And then you have to add one more argument, something, C. And guys, here you have to write A plus B plus C. And for the one more logic, guys, you have to prepare one more method. The method name is total of 4 items. And definitely you have to take the 4 arguments, something, C comma D and A plus B plus C plus D, that you have to do it. And guys, definitely on the bottom, you can create an object and you can create that object of the method and you can call the methods. Like you can call the first one is what? Total of 2 items. Let's take 100 and 200, right? And guys, OB dot, you can call total of 3 items. You can pass 3 items now. Now we can call, guys, total of 4 items and let me pass 4 items, guys, like this. This is, guys, without method overloading, you work it. But I'll tell you guys why method overloading has came into the picture. See, observe, if it is a 2 item, then we return 1 method, 3 items, 1 more method, 4 items, 1 more method. Method names, observe, please focus on the method names. Observe if the case, if the more customers will making the random number of items, like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It is always will be the bad practice, guys, writing the method name like this. But there is a common work is going to be happening. Then in that case, what you can do? You can make all the method names as same name like this. Okay. And on the bottom also, guys, you have to call the same method, but argument list, you have to change it. Argument list, you have to change it. Guys, this is about method overloading. This is about method overloading. Now, guys, if this code gets executed, then we can say that Python will supporting the method overloading. Guys, are you clear what is overloading concept and how to write that code? I'll tell you whether it is supported or not later. First, tell me, are you clear with this code? Writing multiple methods with same method name with different arguments. But fortunately, this code doesn't work, guys. This code doesn't work. How Python interpreter will create the memory here is, first, whenever you use a def keyword, the Python interpreter load this method. The method name is total with 2 arguments. Now, whenever Python interpreter will comes to this line, what the Python interpreter will do is it will not create a new memory. It will not create a new memory for the same total method. Whatever the existing method is there, that existing method have the how many argument? 2, no? Now what the Python interpreter will do is the old method replaced by the new method, and now the only one method we have in the memory with the 3 arguments. We have only one method have in the memory with the 3 arguments. Now guys, if you see the last one, the total method will have the 4 arguments now. Now definitely you can expect that the second method is also replaced by the third method. Now Python interpreter will have only one method in the memory that will accept the 4 methods. I mean 4 arguments. Now you know what you are doing, guys. You are trying to checking the method with 2 arguments. Definitely the code will show the error, guys. You can check it. Missing 2 required positional arguments, CD. The code doesn't work. Now guys, even you try for the rest of this one also, the code doesn't work. Now the code will work for only the last method call only. The code will work for only the last method call only. Guys, you can check it. Now we can say Python does not support method overloading. If the method overloading will support, definitely this code has to be work. But the Python does not support the method overloading. But guys, have a feasibility. Have a feasibility. The feasibility, guys, you can prepare a single method. You can prepare a single method. Maybe you remember there is a arbitrary arguments will be there. The concept, maybe you remember arbitrary arguments. You can go with the arbitrary arguments concept. Okay. And there, guys, you can take initially sum is equal to 0, and you can write for I in items. For in items. And there, guys, you can write S is equal to S plus each item, and finally, guys, we can print the sum. Guys, in that scenario, the code will work. But we are not fully filling the method overloading concept. We are not preparing a multiple methods, guys. We are preparing a single method. So we can't say that it's a complete method overloading. It's just partial method overloading is supported. Partial method overloading is supported. I hope this is clear to you all how Python will support method overloading. Guys, is that clear? Is that clear? Yeah. Now, guys, let me go with
Chandy, before going to the next topic, let me we want to speak sometime.
Okay.
Digvijay, over to you.
Right. So guys, we just had just a quick announcement before we move on to the next topic. So if we can do it on the full screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as you are all attending the session on the Python, we would also like to introduce to the data engineering program that we are having at Antwork. So this is a 16-week live learning program that we have, which cater to your need of becoming a full stack data engineer. And this program is delivered by industry's leading experts from brands like Amazon, Mercedes, Teradata, Kimberly-Clark, IBM, and so on. So those multiple group of professionals come together to cater to your specific modules that we have over the SQL, over NoSQL databases, the big data Hadoop part, and the cloud part of data engineering, Azure engineering, etc. This, do check out the program. We will in the chat we will drop the link to those program. This slide shows the what sort of the tools and technologies you would be learning in order to become and get hired as a data professional here. So starting from a bit of Python, you are already learning here. And you will also learn about SQL and shell scripting in our this bootcamp program. The big data part is there. The Azure Essential of the cloud is there. Spark, Databricks, and Kafka real-time streaming. So we are covering everything into that. Previously, we have already running 2 cohorts of data engineering already with us, and a few of them are also able to get jobs as a data engineer. We provide the 100% placements assistance from our side, where getting you interviews with various companies, getting your CV prepared, shortlisted into a lot of companies. We help you out with, and definitely, this is a great field to be in. Most of you are, if you have no, little bit idea about what are the data science and data engineering field are. I would, maybe encourage go to that link of that we will drop in the chat regarding the program. It's a absolutely wonderful field to be in. There are a lot of job openings are there in the data engineering specifically, and a career there can really help you out with a lot of things. So do check that out. Now I will just we will drop the chat. Can we have the link in the chat for the program?
Yeah, I'll
And
share.
you can continue with this class. Just if anybody have any query regarding this program, they can register over that link, or they can personally drop us your contact. Somebody from our team will be happy to have a chat with you. So thank you guys. Thanks, Chanti. You can take it over.
Yeah. Okay, guys, can you confirm? You can see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Fine.
Oh.
Okay. So guys, we are in the middle of polymorphism. I told you like polymorphism will talk about the only two things, method overloading and method overriding. And this is a summary whether the Python will support overloading or not. And let me talk about, guys, overriding now. Overriding. Let me go with one more program, the very basic program, to understand what is overriding. I have a class. The class name is, the class A. There I'm preparing one function. The function name is show message. And there, guys, I'm writing something, welcome to Antwalk. Welcome to Antwalk. Guys, this is a one class. And one more class I was prepared. The class name is class B. Okay, class B. And this is I'm changing to the message I'm changing to I have written something, guys. Today session is oops. Today's session is oops, and hope you enjoyed it. I have written something. Hope you enjoyed it, guys. Now, if I create object for a class B, for child class, now if I call, you can call two methods. You can call only one method because there is no relationship. Now, guys, I'm making the relationship between the both classes. Now, this time, the child class can access, guys, the two methods. The child object can access the two methods. So, as expected, guys, if you run it, and guys, you can see the both outputs. You can say, welcome to Antwalk. Today's session is oops, and hope you enjoyed it. Now, guys, observe carefully. The parent class method name show message and child class method name is show message too. Now, what if both are having the same name? What if the both are having the same name? What will happen? Now, definitely we can call only one method, guys, not the two. Now, in this case, now the question is which methods gets executed, parent class method or child class method? Actually, if I do the changes immediately, maybe you are watching or not, in the fifth line, there is a one arrow symbol, you can see the top arrow, and just place the cursor over there and you can see, guys, you are overriding a method from the A class. So overriding is nothing but, guys, preparing a method with the same header in parent and child class. You can see in parent we have a same method header, and as well as child also we have a same method header, but the body is different. Now, guys, in that case, always child method gets executed, not the parent method gets executed. This is what we call it as method overriding. Method overriding. I hope you got the clarity what is method overriding. In always method overriding, child method gets executed, not the parent method. Suppose if there is a scenario, you want to execute both. In method overriding, you want to execute both parent and child class method. Then guys, you can use a special keyword called a super. And guys, you can call the show message method. Super means it's parent class method. Super means it's parent class method, guys. Just you can run and you can see it now. Suppose guys, if you create one more child class, something, like the class C, and you are making its a child to be like this. Okay, now guys, here also you calling the show message. And now if I write the message something, one message I'm writing, that is what buy. Now, if you create for the child class object, guys, what will happen in here? Now you created an object for child class. Now you are calling the show message. So control goes to show message, and then we are calling super of show message. It control goes to its parent. And now guys, here you will get a show message. Again, here the parent methods gets executed. So I think now you got the order in which order the code gets executed. First, the topmost parent will execute. Then after that, each child, and then after that, each child. Guys, this is what about method overriding and the order to execute the code and the usage of the super function. Is that clear? Is that clear? Guys, can you confirm? So guys, I hope you got the clarity what is polymorphism. We'll talk about only the two things, and overloading and overriding. To understand the next concept, guys, I'm moving to a scenario. So please focus on the scenario, then only you can understand the topic. Otherwise, you can't understand. There is a one RBI class I have taken, RBI, Reserve Bank of India, the parent bank for all the banks. Now, guys, there are three child banks I'm taking, SBI and HDFC. And let's take, guys, ICICI. So this is a parent bank, and guys, on the bottom you can see there are the three child banks you can see. For all the child banks, RBI only will decide the timings, right? And something, holidays list, holidays list, and one more thing, guys, the rate of interest, right? This is a parent class, and this is all of the child class, guys. Observe the scenario here. Maybe you got it that this is what type of inheritance. Maybe you got it one parent with multiple childs is nothing but, guys, hierarchical inheritance. Hierarchical inheritance. Now, guys, let's take the timings. Observe, they're giving the timings, guys, like this. 10 o'clock they has to be open. The 10 o'clock they has to be open. 10 a.m. 10 a.m. they has to be open at the rate 10 a.m. And guys, and the 4 o'clock, guys, they have to close the banks, all the banks. Now, guys, holidays list, they are giving, guys, the weekly 5 days only. Weekly 5 days, only weekly 5 days. And guys, all government holidays, and plus, guys, 1 month vacation also they are giving. Just observe, 1 month vacation also they are giving. Yeah, just I'm giving the scenario, okay? And now, guys, the third scenario, if you see, the rate of interest will be, let's take, guys, 24% rate of interest they given. Just imagine 24 rate of interest, nothing but, guys, 2 rupees interest. 2 rupees interest. Now tell me, just as per your understanding, and just observe, you are one of the SBI employee. Okay, if you are one of the SBI bank employee. Now tell me, guys, will you change the logic with the timings method, or are you comfortable with the timings and holidays? Guys, tell me, will you modify? I mean, is there any need to modify the logic behind the timings and holiday list? Are they, you feel that comfortable? Can you confirm in the chat? Will you change the logic for the first two methods? If you are an employee, no, definitely. But rate of interest, guys, you can see there is a 24% they given. See, the bank to attract the customer, definitely they has to change the logic for the rate of interest. Okay, they has to change the logic for the rate of interest. Guys, observe the final scenario is I have taken 3 business method, and the 3 business method, guys, 2 business method logic is used by all the childs, but the last method logic, guys, they are not using, they are keep on modifying, guys. Observe the SBI giving let's take 12% rate of interest, nothing but, guys, 1 rupee interest. And you know, these guys are giving 6% only, nothing but half rupee. And guys, these are giving something, you know, 80%, I think 1.5 rupee interest they are giving. It means they keep on changing. So in that scenario, guys, you know, the RBI class has to be taken as what, guys? Abstract class. Abstract class. Now I'll tell you guys what is the need of the abstract classes. A abstract class is a normal class. A abstract class is a normal class which have concrete methods. Guys, the first 2 are the concrete method. It means their logic never change for the childs. I mean, this logic is not changed for the childs. And guys, the last one is, guys, the abstract method. That is, that method logic can be changed by the child classes. And in that case, you have to declare this method without any body. Even if you declare this 24%, that's useless. That's useless. You have to declare this method without body. That method we have to call it as, guys, abstract method. This is, guys, a concept called abstract classes. Okay, this is a scenario. Now let me quickly go with the coding part, guys. You can see how to implement this code. I'm taking the application name as app9. Guys, first you have to create an RBI as an abstract class. But guys, to create an abstract class, there's a rule is there. The rule is the current class has to be child of another class called ABC class. Guys, ABC stands for abstract base class. ABC stands for abstract base class. So don't get confused. It's a ready-made module. Okay, ready-made module. So you have to make it a child to the class. Now, guys, immediately you can prepare the methods. The first method is concrete method, which have the body. Now let me write something, you know, open at the rate 10 a.m. and closed at the rate, guys, the 4 p.m. And I'm not writing one more method, guys. The holiday list you can write. And one more method I'm preparing. The method name is, you know, rate of interest. Now I make it as it's an empty method. But guys, before you make it empty, make sure that there is a one decorator you have to use it. That is what abstract method. Just to wait a moment. There's a one decorator you have to use it. And I think that is given from ABC dot, I think. Yeah. Yeah, guys, this is what you have to declare it. Now, you know, your rate of interest will become the abstract method if you declare like this only. This method does not have the body. Guys, let me create the first child. That is what SBI. And I'm making it a child to like RBI. Now we can implement only one method, guys. Yeah, you have to implement one method compulsory. The method name is rate of interest. And you know, SBI decides, guys, as I told you in the diagram, 12% as a rate of interest. Now, guys, you can create an object for child class, that is a SBI. Remaining, I'm not writing. Maybe you can fill it. Now, guys, this object can call timings, and as well as, guys, you can call the rate of interest also. Now let's run. And guys, check this output. Guys, you can see the timings and the SBI. This is what, guys, abstract classes. What is, and the only one difference between the normal class and the abstract class is, guys, abstract class have the abstract methods and also concrete methods. Whereas normal classes, guys, have only the concrete method, that is nothing but methods with body. This is a scenario, guys, where we have to go with the concept called abstract methods. Now here itself, guys, here itself, I'll go with the one more conclusion. If a class has only abstract methods, there is no concrete methods. Okay, in that case, guys, we can call this RBI as an interface, guys. If you have other language programming knowledge, guys, please you can compare it is an interface. An interface is an abstract class which have only abstract method, doesn't have any concrete methods. Doesn't have any concrete methods. So guys, this is about abstract classes and how to use interfaces. There is no interface concepts in Python, but you can implement the interfaces through abstract classes by preparing only abstract methods inside the abstract classes. Now, guys, let me conclude the last concept to you guys. That is what? The class versus abstract class versus, and there's one more concept is the interface. Guys, as I told you just now, class is equal to only concrete methods, whereas abstract class is equal to, guys, concrete methods plus abstract methods. Whereas, guys, interface, I told you just now, it has only the abstract methods. Now tell me, guys, in this three class, interface, abstract classes, where you can prepare only methods without body, where you can prepare methods without body, in class or abstract class or interface, where you can prepare only methods without body, only methods header, where you prepare. As per this conclusion, maybe you can tell that answer. Yes, exactly, interfaces. Yeah, guys, that is what actually the concept, we call it as abstraction. Abstraction. I told you guys in the beginning, abstraction is nothing but it will talk about, guys, method hiding, method implementation hiding, guys. Among between the three, like class, abstract class, interfaces, only interface will support the abstraction, because in interface only we can achieve the abstraction. And coming to it in the class, guys, we can have in class, if you observe here, guys, class supports 0% abstraction, 0% abstraction, because all method has to be declared with the body. Whereas guys, abstract classes, suppose, guys, 50% abstraction. And the last topic, guys, that is what interfaces only will support, guys, the abstraction, that is 100%, because all methods you have to declare without body. I hope this is also clear to you all. Yes, guys, confirm all. Is that clear? What is abstraction and which one, I mean, how we supports the abstraction? Yes. So guys, that's it for the session. Maybe I hope you enjoy the sessions. Okay, within a less span of time. Okay, you want to repeat, Naveen? Okay, fine. See, actually, Naveen and all guys, please focus. Actually,
I think we need to stop the class now because we have another class.
Okay, fine. Maybe Naveen, maybe you can revise the session again. Maybe you can got it. So
yeah, guys, please fill the form. I have shared the link in chat box, so you can revise it. I definitely you will get the answers.
Okay, Bindu.
Okay. Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you, Shanti.